All right, welcome back, folks, to the Coach and the Kicker segment. All right, welcome back to the Coach and the Kicker segment on the Florida Football Insiders podcast presented by Beef O'Brady's. Remember, Beef O'Brady's on Bush and Himes is your place to go for all your football action, whether it's Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and even Monday night. Got playoff baseball going on. We got the NHL season just getting going with the Tampa Bay Lightning and such. So Coach Leavitt's wearing his Tampa Bay Lightning shirt. So I want to give a shout out to him for that. And welcome back to the podcast, Coach.
It's good to be back again. What a weekend, huh? A lot of unbelievable games. Just crazy, absolutely crazy.
All right, let's start there. First of all, before we get started, tell me how'd the girls do in their flag football playoffs?
Well, I was a little bit off. They both Sophia's definitely in the playoffs. They played the number team and they got beat, but they're still in second.
Okay.
The third place team, and Sophia did well. She, did some good job rushing the quarterback, and had a catcher. So then Isabella's team, they got beat. They both got beat, but they both have won enough games where they're getting the playoffs. So Isabella's probably going to win next Saturday to get in the playoffs. So that'll be a big game. I told her she's going to have to get mentally ready, and but it's exciting. I'm telling you, I love watching them play.
No, that's great. That's great. That's good to hear. No film session, Coach. Girls don't need the film session this young. No film sessions. Mental reps. Give them some mental reps.
Right.
All right, let's get to the action. It was a wild week around the country. We're going to talk. I want to get your thoughts on a couple of the bigger games around the country as well. State of Florida, another kind of a rough week in the state of Florida. Three teams win, 4 teams lose. You got Miami, FAU, and Central Florida win. FIU, USF, Florida, and Florida State lose. Just the general thoughts about, I won't say the malaise, but kind of the lack of consistency around the state of Florida with the Florida teams.
Well, back in the 70s, I'm going to go way back when I was in high school. Florida was pretty average. Florida State was awful. Miami was a joke. They weren't very good. And then they built those 3 programs to be 3 of the best in the country, winning national championships and, doing so well. And I think one of the problems is these schools probably try to go out of state too much recruiting, but that's just my thought. And that's why, to be honest with you, why originally I thought South Florida could do great things, because I knew where Florida State, Miami were when I was in high school, and they weren't very good. And I thought with the city of Tampa and the whole picture of South Florida, I didn't think there was any question that South Florida could be in that type of, similar to what those programs were in time. Sure. When things right and taking the right steps. But that was that. But here you have Miami beating, I guess, was it
Virginia Tech
2014?
Yeah,
pretty good game because they were up on them. Then Virginia Tech came back, and I really didn't see that game. I watched Florida.
Right.
The quarterback, that 81-yard run was unbelievable. It just shows he has so much talent, and he teases you because he is such a good runner. If they can ever get him to continue to grasp the game, he could be pretty special. Will he? I don't know. Right. I thought they played hard. They played well, but they just didn't win the game.
Very surprised they gave up 45 to LSU. I mean, LSU went up and down the field on offense. Not that I expect Florida defense to be a lockdown defense, but very surprising they gave up, I think, touchdowns on like the first 5 or 6 drives of the game.
Well, the quarterback that LSU has transferred from Arizona State is really that good, I think.
Okay.
When I was at Oregon, we recruited him. In fact, that was the area, that was my high school that I was recruiting, and we turned him down.
Okay.
And we taken another quarterback, and I really enjoyed visiting with him and getting to know him. I thought he was really a good person and tremendous skill set. They just couldn't stop him. He was that good, and so but LSU just, man, they got out and they were beating them bad. Florida comes back. You got to give them some credit, but then LSU did what they needed to do to win, and then Florida State just got beat, by Clemson. Clemson's just better. And, but Florida State could have, they came rallying back, and they had their chances. You almost kind of wish they'd get that quarterback out. He doesn't look like he's a drop back type guy, so he can run and he does well when he's running with the ball and resetting his feet, and then I'm kind of going back. FAU got a good win.
Yes.
Rice was really close.
Yep.
Rice is not all that, but FAU needed a win. Now they go out to UTEP and play, and they'll probably be better than UTEP, but I don't know if they'll be able to handle the travel. And FIU, is going to get beat, and they're just not a real good team. Who else was there?
USF Tulane, fairly competitive game, pretty competitive.
Tulane's a good football team, and well coached. They play real good defense. The game really wasn't that close. I know Tulane won by a couple of touchdowns. I know South Florida was in there early.
Right.
Quarterback gets hurt. Right. I get that. But I don't know how much I want to comment on the South Florida deal. It is what it is. You got to win games, and everybody knows it. And their head coach knows it. Their staff knows it. The players know it. You got to win. And the bottom line is you either win or you lose. And they know that. They don't need to hear it. They don't need to hear any stuff anymore. You got to play better defense. The D coordinator has got it. Like I said, he's got a good resume. He's had some really good defenses in his past.
Yep.
So you got to believe it might be a personnel problem. They talk about injuries. A lot of people don't want to hear that because everybody has injuries. Man, I've been through it. I've been through it where you've got hardly anybody left. And you almoys have to prepare that way. You're not going to have a 2 deep. I never had a 2 deep. You prepare like 3 or 4, 3, maybe 2 nose guards if you ran the odd front. Maybe there's 3 DNs, 3 outside linebackers.
Right.
Maybe you train an inside linebacker to play outside also if he's better than the next backup guy. You want to have 3 corners, probably 3 safeties. You're not going to get anybody else ready that much. So I always tried to tell those guys we're going to have about 18 to 20 starting type players. They all feel starters. So when you do somebody, the next guy coming up has played quite a bit and is in that type of rotation. I've lost 6 or 7 starters before, and nobody wants to hear it. No excuses. You win or lose.
How do you handle when a team starts to get a little thin, especially on one side of the ball or the other? How do you handle the practice reps? You obviously don't want to blow those guys out during the week as far as getting all the reps. How do you handle managing the practice reps?
Well, we talked about that. We talked about it a little bit last week. This time of year, first of all, you're not going to, your practices to me are cut down shorter.
Okay.
You don't have individual time. It's all team and kicking, and you get them in the weight room more. Where you lifted, say you lifted 30 minutes, or if it was 30 minutes, you're lifting 45 minutes now.
Okay.
Lifting an hour to me, because the strength is so important this time of year, because you don't want to maintain. I always feel say maintain strength. You don't. You want to get stronger, and everybody's trying to do that. The only way you have an ability or a chance to get a little stronger is to, get in the weight room a little bit more. And the way to do that is to cut your practice time a little bit more. Now, also your linebackers, your running backs, those guys have got to get in the weight room on their own. They've got to get in there just to do shoulders, arms, those type of things, because they're going to get beat up so much. And usually your guys that really pay attention to their bodies are going to do a little bit more lifting, and just on certain lifts, it doesn't take you but 15 minutes to get some reps in that you need. So yeah, you gotta rest a little bit more this time of year. More film.
Yep. We got several teams on bye weeks this week: Florida State, Florida, USF. How do you handle, as the coach, as the head coach running a bye week? Give the audience and the fans a perspective of typically what a bye week would look like, as far as how many days this week are you going to practice? Are you going to give them 3 or 4 days off? What's the bye week look like as far as on the field work?
Well, and we talked about this last week as well. I'd always go in there on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We're going to practice. I'm going to go Thursday with just helmets, and we're just going to throw the ball, a little bit of team stuff, because I'll probably keep the coordinators in.
Yeah.
Uh, but I'm going to give them off. Thursday's not going to be a hard practice. I might run them a little bit on Thursday after our team. We're only going to be out there about 45 minutes at the most.
Yeah.
I might have the strength coach run them really good because you're missing game reps on that
Cardio.
week.
Keep the cardio
So
up. Yep.
that part's important. The coaches are going to be out recruiting. They're going to some are going to hit out Wednesday night, so they can get good work on Thursday and Friday. And then I'd give everybody off Saturday, watch football. And we're going to come back in on Sunday because we're already what I always had the coordinators do to make sure that they have everything set. They're going to get the most recent game, which is usually the most important, but they're going to get their game plans, a pretty good idea what they're going to do, drawing all the cards for the scout teams. That all needs to be done. They can do that on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and even this Sunday before. But and we're also going to spend time really, really looking at where we're messing up and where our weaknesses are. That's really important. So off weeks are not off weeks. You can get so much done if you pay attention to it. It's really sometimes the busiest weeks you'll have.
So if you're Florida State, even USF, even do you use this as a reset to say, hey guys, this is what we've done the first half of the year. We've got about 5, most everybody's got 5 games to go. Do you use this as a rebirth of a new season kind of deal, especially when you're dealing with USF and even Florida State, where they're 4-3, they've lost some games in a row. Do you kind of try to flush the bad stuff out of the mindset and start over? Or how do you handle kind of when the bye week's kind of right in the middle of the year like it is?
Well, it just depends where your team is, and how many have you won or lost and what type of momentum. If you got a team that's won all their games like TCU,
right?
You would treat it in a very positive way. Let's keep doing the things we're doing. You still want to look at some of the weaknesses or how people were attacking you. But if you've lost a number, I'm like South Florida, you got to come back. Like I said after the East Carolina game,
right?
You simplify your package. Make sure you're playing the guys that are playing hard.
Right.
You want to do that, and sometimes if you have to play younger guys because that they're going to be better than the other guys, then you're going to have to simplify your package. You don't have to change your package; just simplify what you're doing, so the guys can play hard. Because there's nothing more important than that. I don't care about schemes and all that. If your guys aren't playing hard, it doesn't really matter.
Team like Florida State wins their first 4 and they've lost their last 3 heading into a bye week. How's that? How do you keep the guys from saying, "Uh-oh, here we go again"? Back, especially the kids that were there the last couple of years, as far as to keep, to fight through this bye week as well.
Well, you try to spin it best you can, and Clemson's a good football team certainly, and we could have had North Carolina State. You're honest with them,
yep.
But you might regroup the games that you lost and some of the big areas and why you lost, and make sure the team understands that. And then say, hey, listen, it's all about, and I always. It's all about November. When I was in South Florida, everybody says we didn't finish well. Well, we did. The problem we had was in the month of October. And when we were building that program, exactly the same thing happened a lot of times. I couldn't build the depth because we got really good pretty fast. And we couldn't build the depth as much. So when we had some injuries, and they usually happen around October,
right?
Times our depth, we had a hard time, but we usually came back in November and won a bunch of games, and that's what I'd point to with the off week. Now, how you finish and how you finish the season is really big. It's really important, and get them into a good mindset. There's no use in just being depressed and sad over what's happening because you can't do anything about it. So, and that's for coaches too. The coaches have got to kind of role model that and your leadership, and you almost, I don't know if it's resetting, but let's get excited about November. Let's get excited about finishing the season. Let's go on a high note because that's what everybody's going to remember.
And maybe the best team in the state of Florida, Central Florida, 5-1. They've been playing pretty well the last several weeks. I mean, they're in the race here for the conference title. If you're Gus Malzahn, you've scored a lot of points. Things are going well. What do you see out of UCF that you like?
Well, they're very explosive offensively, and I faced them. It's interesting. We were 4-0 against Central Florida when I was at South Florida, so those were all really good games. But when I was at SMU, we beat them as well. So 5-0 on those guys. But
nice.
But my point is this: I had to try to defend got the offense, and it was hard. You've got they attack you in so many ways, and with the quarterback running and the things they do with the quarterback and the RPOs, man, they really can hurt you, and they can hurt you with explosive plays if you're not careful. And we were fortunate to beat them, and we played decent in that game on defense. I'm not saying we were great, but we were decent.
Yep.
And but that's what they do, and then they've been playing some pretty good defense, and if you get all that together, then in your kicking game, when that's why they're where they're at. They only lost to Louisville at home that one game. It was
Right.
1 point or 2 points, whatever. It was close.
Right.
And Louisville's a good football team. They're not easy to defend either. I think they do a very good job. I faced Louisville a bunch.
Give the audience a perspective of when you're kind of creating a game plan during the week. How do you as a head coach or you as a coordinator, how do you break down the film? How do you look at the film to say how do you identify these are the things they're good at? Here's the things they're not great at. I mean, I know you break it down: first down, third down, red zone. Talk to the audience about how you break down tendencies of an opponent to create a game plan for the future weeks.
Well, as a head coach, I used to right away after we finished the last game, I would just watch the entire game, the team that we're going to face, their most recent game, just to kind of get a feel for them and kind of who they are, what they're all about on offense and defense, and the kicking. If I want specifically, and it'd be the same thing on the other side on offense, like you just said on defense, you're gonna, first of all, your first practice we used to go on Monday nights, try to draw up as much first, second down plays as you can to get your guys a little bit of understanding of what you're going to face.
Is it more by formations? Do you break it down by formations or personnel groupings? What's the best?
All of it, but not on Monday. Monday, I just went 1st and 10.
Okay.
And all I did was their general thesis, what they're really all about. Do they throw a lot of wide receiver screens? Do they run the option? Those kind of things as a defensive coach.
Okay.
Same thing you do in offense. It's not any different. And then when you get into Tuesday, then you get you get breakdowns of everything. Got first, second down, second, long, short, medium. Third was real big with long, medium, and short. You have your third and fourth short yards, what they do on offense. Red zone, maroon zone, which is 35 on in. I start red zone at the 15. But then you do explosive plays. I want to cut up of that. I want to cut up of the running back, all his touches. I want a cut up of maybe wide receiver screens, all of them, 8 screens, wide receiver screens. I want to cut up of everything they've done, and I would put those cards in. And on Tuesday would be all first, second down, and then I'd probably start on the third and short, fourth and short, because sometimes you don't get to it. And then maybe get into on Wednesday be first, second down, and red zone.
Now is that a probability deal where you say, okay, they in third and five or less, they 52% of the time they run 2 tight ends or 3 wide receivers? Is it more of a probability situation that you present to the players? Because you can't present every single situation to the players. Do you break it down by probabilities? Hey, 75% of the time they like to do this formation, those kind of things.
Yes. I mean, to answer your question, yes. I mean, you have your GAs, your analysts that are breaking it all down, and they say, hey, listen, 80% of the time they're going to do this. And you're going to really want to give your players what they do most of the time.
Right.
As you get through the end of the week, it's always hard, but you're trying to throw in the cards of a play. Hey, they might do this, they might do that. Right. You always throw in a trick play, through the week, because, and every day you want to have a trick play, a reverse pass, something they've and you try to give them as much as they humanly can handle, because after the game, you don't want to say, hey, I should have thrown that play in because they might have remembered it.
Right.
But you're right. It's hard to do everything, but you try as much as you can, but you want to get the thesis, you want to get the main things like you said.
All right. And again, same thing offensively. I mean, obviously, as an
Same.
offensive coach, they run cover two, or they like to blitz a lot in third down, or those kind of things. How do you as an offensive coach or a defensive coach decide to come up with a new wrinkle for a particular week based on what they do? Maybe something you haven't done all year, or something maybe you did back in week 2 that you haven't used a whole lot in the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Well, in offense, if you're an offense coordinator, you're going to look at where they're vulnerable. First of all,
Okay.
how they've been hurt. Have they been hurt with the option game? Have they been hurt with the RPOs? Have they been hurt with inside run, plunge play, which is stretch zone boots?
Gotcha.
How has this defense been hurt? Next thing you want to do offensively is you're going to want to know how good are their corners, and can you pick on somebody?
Right.
Where's their weak link? Where's vulnerable? What's their D line like? You really spend a lot of time with personnel on both sides. Where
Injury
are they
situations.
susceptible?
Injury situations.
All of it's important, and you as an offensive coach, you want to look at all that. Then you want, and within your system,
Okay.
what do you want to use that is going to exploit them the most? And the same thing the other side. You're going to want to know. All those type of things. Personnel is a big deal. How good is their quarterback? Number one thing, I want to know about their quarterback. I want to know if they got any receivers that can beat any of our corners. Can they beat them? Do we have to really worry about a certain receiver? Do they have one guy? Do they have two? How good is the running backs? What kind of running backs are they? And then line of scrimmage is important, obviously. In every game, everybody says it's won or lost in line of scrimmage. So,
How much did you ever look at the weather circumstances for the week? Hey, we're going to a cold environment. Hey, it might be rainy on Saturday. I mean, obviously you can't dictate the weather here, but obviously looking at the weather if you're going on the road somewhere.
Always, especially if you're going to play on turf, grass, what is the setting like? What's the environment like? The weather is definitely something you have to pay attention to. Certainly on game day, you look at the wind. That's with the coin toss a lot of times, but you really do look at the setting, and you want to have a team that plays good on the road. You're not going to have a great team if you can't win on the road,
right?
And certainly on the road, you got to play better defense than ever. We used to always say you got to carry your defense because it's sometimes real hard for an offense to go in right away to get going. But all those are very, very important. They really are, and then you hope that you have leadership and guys that have played a lot and been in those environments and can handle it, and kind of not get distracted.
All right, listen to the Coach and the Kicker. I'm Jason, along with Coach Jim Leavitt. We're just breaking down some of the Florida schools and talking about some bye week stuff. We're just talking about some X's and O's. Now I want to talk on the national scale. We had some big upsets over the weekend. Unbelievable game in Knoxville between Alabama and Tennessee. I mean, probably the game of the year, no doubt about it, in my opinion. Coach probably didn't like it being 52-49 or whatever the score ended up being. But just as a fan, Coach, what a game in Knoxville.
Well, the athletes. I mean, it's amazing the kind of players that both teams have.
Yep.
And them playing at such a high level.
Yes.
In the environment. And I give Alabama a lot of credit because they were way down and they battled all the way back. It just shows the resiliency of that team.
Yep.
And I thought Alabama would win. And you got to give it to Tennessee. The special team coordinators have played for me at Kansas State, Mike Eckler. And I know he's all fired up. But what they've done there at Tennessee just shows what you can do. If, there's no question that, however they've done it, they've done a great job in every way. And to bring everybody together, because that program was down.
They were.
For them to come and with the recruiting violations and all the things they had to deal with, and to do it this fast is remarkable. It really is. So you got to give Tennessee a lot of credit. Unbelievable game, just great players. You never ever give up.
And it shows when you have an elite quarterback, both teams, what elite quarterbacks can do to good defenses. I mean, Alabama's got a really good defense, and Hooker made them look silly a few times. Tennessee's defense isn't great, but they're pretty good. And you saw how talented Bryce Young, how many just making plays. You've talked about it all year about how you have to have a quarterback that can make big plays.
Well, if you want to have a great team, that's the most important position on your field. Certainly, and the college game is so different than the NFL game. But you're getting a little bit more and more with Kansas City Chiefs and Mahomes, and all that. You're getting a little bit different with these mobile quarterbacks getting out there and able to.
Jalen Hurts with the Eagles.
Oh yes, exactly. And the RPOs, it's you see it everywhere now, and that's why a lot of the college coaches, the pro coaches, and when I was at the 49ers, we brought in college coaches when we were just to kind of understand about, especially years ago when they had Tebow and they had RG3 and because we played them both.
Well, you had one of the quintessential RPO guys in Colin Kaepernick.
Oh yeah, and we brought college guys in to kind of talk to some defense coordinators about that. And my point is this: the defense coordinators in college game have a lot harder time, I think, than the pro game.
Yeah.
There's just so many. You see so much more in the pro game. It's just not the same. It's a different game. I'm not saying the pro game isn't harder. I'm just saying it's very different. I do believe that the D coordinators in the college game, I think they do have. It's more difficult. The hash marks, you got that issue with the wide fields, and of course, a lot of people think the hash marks in the middle make it better in offenses, but you can kind of go both ways on that a little bit. But it's tough. These D coordinators have a tough time. I was happy for Oklahoma to win that game.
Yeah.
Against Kansas, because Kansas is not what they used to be. And text Brent after the game and was happy for those guys. And but of course, I know the D coordinator at Kansas played for me, so it's kind of fun to watch some of those things. What other games you have?
Let's go up to Ann Arbor. Your guy well, Harbaugh. I mean, ran for 400 plus yards against Penn State. I mean, just a classic beatdown of. I mean, just a methodical run, throw enough. I mean, but just a very physical effort and a very impressive effort by the Wolverines.
Yeah, I was 400 something yards rushing. Now that game was Michigan got up and then Penn State came back.
Yep,
and very close, and then Michigan just
bludgeoned them. They bludgeoned them to death.
They really did.
I mean,
and that's really what Jim wants to do.
Yep.
Being with him, I was with him for almost 5 years, and I think he's a tremendous coach and got a good staff. And man, you got to give them a lot of credit because they won Big Ten last year, and they're setting it up for another classic game. Ohio State. Yeah, it's coming.
All right, let's talk about again another program a little bit. What a wild ending in Salt Lake City, Utah, USC.
Wow.
Utah goes for 2 to win in the last minute with Cam Rising. They make it, and then they hold USC out of field goal range.
Let me tell you something. That was, I don't know what game was better, because I watched some of the Utah game, and they had the two players faces on the helmet
that passed away last year. Two kids that got killed last year. Yep, passed away.
I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah.
You don't do that just to get your team up. Let me say this in the right way. You do that because there's a real a love that's different. Correct. That I know anybody that passes, it's a big. I understand that, but this I don't know these guys, but it must have been very different.
Yeah,
in a different way, and for them, because to claw their way back,
right? Because
USC was controlling that game, and the fight, and you could even feel the passion off the screen. To feel the way they played is remarkable, and for them to just keep clawing away, it was really an unbelievable game. That game was just, it's hard to explain it. I love watching them play.
And that's one of the great venues in America, underrated venues to play in America, is at Salt Lake City at night, right?
Been there a number of times. Was there when I coached in Colorado and at Oregon, and when I was in South Florida, we played there as well and got killed. Coaching, and Paul Griffin, who is probably the best athletic director in the world, we scheduled that game, and we got man, that team was good. They ended up beating USC in a bowl game. They only lost like one game, but they buried us. And we had just beat Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh 1-1 year. And we beat Pittsburgh. The next game we were playing Southern Utah, whatever got canceled. And then we went out to Utah, and I'll never forget the head coach comes up before the game and says, "Yeah, you guys beat the dog out of Pittsburgh. We understand how good you guys are. You set me up." And they buried us. I got out of Salt Lake that day, but then I faced Utah a number of times. Always great games. But it's
what an underrated coach Whittingham is. I mean, that guy's done a tremendous job at Utah. Remember, he took that job before they were in the Pac-12. I mean, they were still a Mountain West team. I mean, just what a job he's done at Utah.
It's similar to us to South Florida.
Yep.
We were in the where were we together? It was the Big East, and then I think they went or something.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
We were connected in the conference or something. I don't know how we were connected. Maybe it was the Under Armour thing because they were Under Armour. Maybe that was it. Because I remember seeing him a number of times a year, and following him. Or they went from Mountain West. We were Big East. It was. I remember talking to him quite a bit through the years. But you're right. I don't know if he's underrated. We don't hear about it because we're out here on the east side of the country, but he's got quite a reputation out there. So you're right. What a great job he's done. And I thought they were better than Florida. Florida won the game.
I'm with you.
Tell you can beat anybody on a given night, but I thought Utah had the better team. But I thought Florida won that game that night. That night.
All right, we'll get you one more game, and I'll get you out of here. TCU, Oklahoma State, another dramatic game in Fort Worth. TCU's on a kind of one of those magical runs here. They got a shot. Them in Tennessee have got a shot here to get to this playoff.
Yeah, it's TCU's got quite an offense, and their defense is good enough, to get them where they are. Now, thank goodness they had a non-conference schedule that was very, very light. They scooted right through those teams. Then they played OU. And OU, nobody kind of knew what OU was. And
right.
Obviously, our defense is not as strong as they're going to be.
Right.
They got through that game, and then Oklahoma State. Now they had Oklahoma State at TCU,
right,
which was an advantage. Oklahoma State was controlling that game all the way through the game.
They were,
but TCU kept on it. They were very explosive. And what was it? Double overtime, was it?
Double, 2 overtimes. Yep.
Yeah. And ended up winning the game. And I have a very good friend. His name is Frenchie, and lives in Tulsa. And he was calling me because I was out and about, and he was calling me every minute on that game. And he had some bad words on the screen when they lost. He was not happy, but big Oklahoma State fan. And so I kind of got the play-by-play at the end there in the overtime. But wow, you're right. What a game. What a game, and what a weekend for football, for college football, really.
Tremendous.
And going right into Sunday, and then I know we won't get into the Bucks, but that was
we can. I mean, we can. Wow, what an upset.
Something's not there right now. They're missing some pieces, and they know that. They've got to get their team together.
It's not a talent issue. It's how do you for the Bucks, if you're not a Bucks fan, the chemistry in the Bucks locker room, something's going on there. We don't know what it is. How do you, again, as a coach, college or pro, how do you keep that chemistry? How do you develop that chemistry? They have to own it. The players ultimately have to own it. You can tell them all you want, but the players, and I've been a player, we have to own it. We either have to want to do it or not do it. How do you help foster that chemistry?
Well, I only can speak when we're with the 49ers. We had great leadership. We just did. We had Justin Smith. We had Pat Willis. We had Staley on the offensive line. Alex Smith was a very good leader. And then Kaepernick came in after that. But we had really good leaders. And I'm going to tell you right now, in the NFL game, you need leadership in college game, no question. But you have to have it in the NFL game because these grown men that, they'll listen to coaches, but they gotta. It's got to be within. And I've talked to a number of NFL head coaches through the years, that the downfall has been no leadership in the locker room. And it was this way at the Buccaneers before Arians came in and had some difficulties, and I knew what it was. It was the leadership on the team.
Right.
So gotta, Brady's got to do a great job. Obviously, he's best quarterback of all time. He's unbelievable player, and people are going to listen to him, obviously, and they've got to have the same on defense. And seems like
and the tough part is with Brady. I hate to say this, he's going through his own things off the field that we don't know all the details, but he's not. He's going through some stuff off the field, and then he went to the wedding over the weekend and all that stuff. So you just, again, hopefully again, you're right. The adult part of the leadership component is so critical at the NFL level.
Well, the distractions doesn't help, but the fact that if you and I go through some of the same things that he goes through, a lot of people don't hear about it.
Right.
Problem is there social media and everything. I can't even imagine how hard that is, because it's got to be very painful. Your family is your family.
Sure.
Oh, he probably loves his wife and loves his kids, and it's got to be very, very hard. And a lot of people don't understand it, how difficult it is, and to try to, to be focused here and here. Right. I guess sometimes football might even help that a little bit, because it allows you to get away from the drama. But I don't know. Distractions are distractions. You don't want them. It's too hard. It's the game. Too many good teams, good players.
Whether you're Tom Brady or the 53rd guy on the roster, they all life things happen. I mean, everybody has a life, and there's things that happen in your life.
They sure do. It's too bad, but it's reality, and nobody's going to feel sorry for you. Even though I'm sure it'd be nice if people do, but they don't. You're going to have to do it yourself. You're going to have to rise up and find a way.
All right, Coach, we're going to get you out of here. Great job on the week again. Shout out to Colorado for the Buffalo that first win.
I wore the Colorado hat. They finally got a win.
And good luck to the girls in their playoff run this weekend. Coach, mental reps this week. Mental reps. Work on the fundamentals and the mental reps.
We're going to grind.
Have a great week, Coach. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Bye.